Hello and welcome. Few weeks back, we brought you a video which talked about how YouTube had become the main social media platform this elections. This video is a second part to that because we've got more interesting data which gives further insights in order to actually explain as to how this particular social media platform is the one which was most used both by the netas as well as by voters to gather a lot of information. Let's take a look at some of the data points that we have accessed. Now, this data suggests that around 14.9 million concurrent live views across 113 mainstream channels, along with regional channels as well. This was the view. 14.9 million live views took place on counting day. 2 million plus concurrent live views on two major Hindi news channel pages on counting day alone. 89% uptick in monthly views for citizen journalists and smaller news outlets. This was largely the election-related news items, which was being viewed by people between November to April in these pages, which are put up by citizen journalists. 70% of the views were garnered by pro-Congress commentators. 108 million plus views for Fir Ek Baar Modi Sarkar campaign video by BJP on its YouTube channel, and 72% views contribution came from less than 1 minute long videos on 10 of the most viewed party channels. So to take us through the interesting data, the insights that we're going to talk about, I'm joined by two guests. Sumit, of course, Sumit Gupta, co-founder of Data Beings, who's compiled that data that we have featured in this video. And also Vijay Rao, Chief Relationship Officer at Rajneeti, which is an organization which does strategic political communication. So first, starting with you, Sumit, there is a number of interesting data that we have already shown our viewers in this video, but what is that particular data point which stood out for you when it comes to YouTube views in this election season?
I think the one data we have put in is 15 million people watching concurrently at one point of time on YouTube. That was a very big data, 1.5 crore people we are talking about. And that's kind of rivals the viewership of the TV channels as well. So that was a very big number, I would say. And overall, over 3 billion views views got by different news channels, primarily 12 major news channels in the news channels. That was really huge data, I would say.
And most of your data is from counting day, right? A lot of the data was from counting day?
Is for the counting day. Day. And if we talk about the campaign as well, and the rise of citizen journalists as well. So we have seen the growth of them, on a year-to-year basis, they have grown 4x.
Right. And, so traditionally, this kind of views would be seen in a mainstream news channel on counting day or big ticket election days.
Right. Either on exit poll day or on the counting day.
Right. Before I come back to talk further about the data with you, Sumit, Vijay, coming to you, we have shared the data with you. The rise of citizen journalists, as Sumit was also saying, a lot of influencers, if you would want to call them, that's some of course, very famous by now. But there are also a lot of smaller outlets, citizen journalists who have started probably their portal, their pages just a few months back. They have also managed to gather a lot of views. But does this worry you in terms of being a strategic political communications person, or for the political parties for that matter? Because, a lot of strands of information would be out there on these social media platforms by people who you can't really, in a way, traditionally hold them accountable. So does that worry you? Is that a worrying trend?
Not at all. Before I sort of answer that question, I would actually like to sort of, thank you guys for bringing out this program, because this program is really apt at this point of time, because I've got some numbers with me, which probably I'll talk in some time. Like you mentioned, this election is one of the main elections in which YouTube has played a really big part, right? So we'll also see how it has played a big part. We'll slowly get into the numbers. Coming to the question of what you asked, I don't think this will sort of pose any problem as such, because one thing in social media is, it gives you that freedom, right? It gives you that ability to post content. By and large, it is unrestricted, right? And on the contrary, it also gives you some sort of anonymity as well. You really don't know if the person is the person, right? But then, all said and done, social media and all its platforms have been on the rise. YouTube, particularly in this elections. So, as far as content creation is concerned, and users being able to voice out their views on YouTube, it doesn't cause any problem as such. But I would also point out to one particular aspect of YouTube, which probably is able to pull a lot of influences or mainstream influences, or perhaps not the mainstream influences actually, into the platform. If you look at all the social media platforms, YouTube has been one platform which actually pays the user back, right? So you've got Facebook, you've got Twitter, you've got Instagram, you've got what. Then this is one platform which allows you to sort of, if your content is really good, then you can monetize your channel and you can actually get revenue back from YouTube. This is the only channel or only platform which, only social media platform which allows you to do it. Probably one of the reasons why you have been able to see a lot of YouTube influences on the rise nowadays.
So what is some of the data that you were, you said you'll talk about? Why is it that political parties have adopted? We've already covered a bit of this on my show earlier, but why is it that political parties have grabbed onto YouTube more than Twitter or Facebook, let's say?
If you look at the growth of all these social media platforms, Twitter or X, is mostly related to that intellectual class of people, right? So whereas Facebook has become really big, and probably you've got all sorts of people out there, and there's a bigger chance of your message getting lost on Facebook nowadays because it really has everybody there, right? So it is very hard for you to reach out to your people. But then, when compared to Facebook, YouTube was fairly slow in catching up, because of which that filtration process has actually set in, right? So people who tend to follow Facebook and people who tend to follow YouTube, right? The subscription or the filter rate is better in YouTube. You tend to follow particularly the content which you like in YouTube. But then in Facebook, it is more of, it has become a cluttered by itself. So in terms of reaching out to your audience, YouTube actually is a better platform. And with respect to the political data, what I was talking about, elections actually does the actual work of elections start at least 1 year or perhaps 1.5 years also before the actual date of election is. But if you just take the last 5 months, considering the Jan 2024 to the May 2024 timeframe, I've got some numbers with me. The total spends by all political parties on YouTube is somewhere around 291 crores. Right? So, this is there on the public platform. So, the total spends by all political parties is 291 crores. Whereas on Facebook, if you look at a similar spends on Facebook doesn't allow you to go back before beyond 3 months, but then the last 3 months of the election, that is the main core or the crux of the election. So we see somewhere around 101 crores being spent on Facebook. So you can roughly say there's a 2.5x times the amount spent on YouTube.
Right.
So political parties have learned that YouTube is a significant platform to reach out and target audience.
So would you say that in a lot of actual on-ground rallies or public meetings by politicians is being replaced by these YouTube videos? Because they would probably, a lot of villages have internet penetration now. So rather than actually going there, is it a more effective way of spreading the message that a neta would want to?
No, I actually believe these platforms are going to evolve in a much bigger way, or probably a refined manner is what I believe, because you've already got mainstream media, which is actually, let's say if there's a rally, probably a bigger mainstream media is only covering it. You would not want to see the same rally on YouTube, right? More or less people have access to TVs nowadays, and they can see it on their television sets as well. See, the thing about all these social media platforms is it's a bi-directional channel. Okay? Whereas your print or electronic media is probably a unidirectional channel where in the newspaper I get to read things, but I may not be able to interact with the content. Or if it's a TV, probably I may get to see content there, but I may not be able to interact. But then social media is bi-directional. And I think the way ahead for these YouTube platforms would be people would want to consume the analysis of news. People would want to consume more and more debates. They want the politics to be broken down, and then so that it is much more easier for them to comprehend things. So they
Right.
don't want the entire clutter to be there. They just want the tidbits out of it.
So the treatment and the format becomes important. Sumit, as we have in fact talked about the fact that, as is being popularly said, that 2014 and 2019 saw a different trend in terms of how people were consuming news, political news or news about elections. So is there a qualitative difference between WhatsApp forward videos and even the Facebook feed? They may have become a bit dated now, but in terms of quality, if we talk about, and you have to analyze it that way, what's the qualitative difference between somebody in 2024 who's consuming a lot of election related information on YouTube vis-a-vis WhatsApp forwards and Facebook feed?
I think the major difference is the targeting or segmentation of the audience. YouTube provides you better segmentation. You can target the people based on their gender, age group, like their spending habit, like where they have been. Like, if, for example, if you're in Delhi, if you talk about Delhi constituency, there are politicians who would want to target immigrants from Northeast or immigrants from here, like that. And YouTube can provide that segmentation very well. Whereas WhatsApp forward or like let's say Facebook, I don't have that much capability in that sense. So add to Vijay's point, I think for a politician it becomes really imperative to target different segments and try to increase their reach.
Right. How is that data point being used in order to reach out to an urban versus a rural population? Vijay, if you can talk about how your clients have in fact used that this time around in 2024 elections. Is there a certain demography or tier 1, tier 2 cities that you're looking for in terms of, because I mean, video in Hindi may reach more regions than a video, let's say, in English. I mean, of course, there are different parts of the country that we're catering to. But then how is the urban or rural divide? When you have the same content, are there multiple videos being taken out? What is the strategy being adopted?
So actually, one thing which is again on the rise is, people are consuming content more in the regional languages nowadays. So be it the urban crowd or the rural crowd as well. Of course, probably metro cities or cosmopolitan cities like Bangalore, where you have English speaking, Kannada speaking, Hindi speaking. So you've got a mixed crowd then, basically. But then the moment you sort of move out of Bangalore, it is mostly Kannada which is being consumed more in Karnataka here. So likewise, it is more Hindi in the northern belt which is consumed. So more content in regional language is doing exceptionally well.
Right. One question that I want to ask you, Vijay, when did your clients actually latch on to this? It must have paid dividends to your clients already. I mean, we recently saw the 5 state elections as well, end of last year. Now, of course, this year, the full-fledged Lok Sabha elections. So when did you see this trend actually rising? Sumit, of course, has worked on data in terms of this aspect, but as you would know, since you might have got requests from a certain point, as you said, that elections preparation goes much further back. So when did you see this trend rising from your client's perspective?
Well, I think most of our clients are already on all these platforms. They're there on Facebook, they're there on Twitter, they're there on YouTube as well. But then YouTube as a platform started responding better, and sort of the engagement and the traction on YouTube increased. Probably, I would say the post 2020 era, or probably the post COVID era. I don't know if there's a direct correlation between COVID and the rise of YouTube, but then that is when the video content consumption actually started increasing.
Right.
So,
coming to
even if I go back to the the subscribers and the increase in the subscribers, the base increasing and everything, I think we saw a very good increase post the 2020 era, post the COVID era.
Right. Sumit, if we talk about the way people are consuming this sort of an information, I mean, WhatsApp or Facebook may have been a more passive way of consuming, political news or election related news, or in hard news for that matter. Now, the fact that people are going on YouTube platforms, they might be following certain handles or following certain pages, but is it also about people searching for more election related content or political content or local news content on YouTube? That is what has gone up recently.
Yes, yes. Especially in the election year, that has gone up. I mean, we have seen the viewership of news channels going through roof. I mean, they have increased within 9 to 12 months. That has gone like 2x. And for political commentators, individual commentators or smaller outlets, that has gone 4x. So people are searching for the news, and especially the news which confirms to their biases, they are looking for that. So that plays a lot of big role in that.
Right. One question that I want to ask you, in fact, my second last question to both of you, what are the pitfalls of this? For example, you might say that if it came to WhatsApp forwards, there was no way to really fact check the information. Forwards were being sent, and you were just consuming it from your point. If you would be somebody who's more diligent or curious, you'd find out more about it, but otherwise you would take it as is. So what are the pitfalls when it comes to YouTube content on YouTube? Do you feel that does it come across as there's a different kind of content creators on YouTube because probably more effort goes into it? Or are there any other evils that you could see? Sumit first and then Vijay.
Okay. Yeah, I think as I just said, YouTube or any social media kinds of confirms to your biases. And in YouTube, there's an incentive for the content creator. You can consider them as a startup, and they will focus on a particular niche. And at times, their content could be very extreme, which could be far from the reality. So they will feed their biases, and that is what they will do to get the views. And then it becomes the responsibility of the viewer to check it, and I mean it becomes difficult for them to check it because they'll get the same content. And at times, I've seen people so they make two accounts, one for the one side of the argument and another for the other side of the argument, because otherwise YouTube algorithm will not show you the other side of the argument at all.
Right, Vijay, coming from your organization works in political communication. So what is the pitfall according to you? What would your clients be worried about?
I don't think there are any reason to worry as such because, one thing is the algorithm is constantly evolving, right? So there might be a few glitches in their reach aspect or in terms of the promotional aspect, but I don't think there's nothing to probably worry about. In fact, one good thing about YouTube is, unlike other social media platforms, it doesn't probably allow that 100% anonymity factor, right? So you really know who you're talking to, or you really know who the content creator is, because in all likelihood, you would actually get to see the person in face. So that actually probably in terms of the trust factor, content on YouTube is probably much more trustworthy than content on Facebook or any other platforms.
And it provides more level playing field for candidates, would you say, in terms of the fact?
Absolutely. So since all these platforms, they don't charge anything if you have to open an account or if you have to post a video. You get to post tons of videos and probably worth GBs of videos, but then they don't charge you anything. So it provides an easy open platform to everybody. But then the main challenge would always be as to if you've got to reach people, then you've got to market. If you've got to amplify your content on those platforms. So that is where the challenge probably would lie going ahead.
Right. And one last question that I would want to ask, I had asked Sumit about this in the last video that I did on this subject. What do you see the future looking like, Vijay, in terms of how your clients would want to utilize this platform further or social media further?
No, absolutely. I think since 2014, there has been a significant increase in the use of social media, and we see that the graph is constantly moving up. I don't see it coming down at all. In fact, I was reading one more article, one more analysis would say candidates would want to spend 50% of their election expenditure going ahead on social media. Right? Probably this is something which is unheard of in our country because social media wasn't given all that importance, but they have realized that this is one very clear medium where you can actually reach out to your voters.
Mhm.
So in all likelihood, you might expect to see much more spends happening on social media. And in fact, we had an opportunity to work in Australia, and we saw that developed countries actually rely much more on the social media aspect. The ground campaigns probably aren't as vibrant and as good as what we see in India. In India, it is truly elections are truly a festival of democracy. But then
Right. And
in other
yes.
countries, it's really laid back, and they are much more active on the social media there.
Right. And considering the heat and dust when election campaigns are conducted, probably it's a
Absolutely.
more preferential method in which you would want to send out your message. Right. So that brings us to the end of this section of the video. Thank you so much for joining us, Sumit and Vijay,
Thank
to
you.
take part,
Thank you.
for
Thank
taking
you.
part in
Thank
this
you.
discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Vijay. Bye.
Right. We had an interesting chat by our experts to decode this data. If you like this video, do share it and subscribe to NDTV for more such content.